Hello, welcome back to Clockwork Dandy Noodles. I am back once more, slowly recovering from my time out with laryngitis. Slowly recovering. I know a few people have said that it's been ages and it seems like I'm not making recoveries. I am, guys. It takes a couple of weeks for it to get over, so thank you for bearing with me. I think with this video going up about half a day late now, I'm nearly on target, so almost there, guys. To Your Eternity is an anime I'm really looking forward to because I've been waiting for ages. So it was initially supposed to come out last season, but it was pushed back. So if you are interested, make sure you give the subscribe button a hit because videos have been going out left, right and centre. So it's not quite reliable yet. So make sure you don't miss out on anything you might be interested in. There is a Discord channel too for you guys to go ahead, subscribe to. You get a notification whenever videos go up. So let's get to it. Go back to Trauma, the anime, but it's a beautiful trauma that I am happy to tune into. This week's episode was almost a 360 on last week. It's very, very different, but all of those elements, those kind of sad, hidden, minor elements are all there. We're building up for what's probably going to be us crying next episode. So as I like to think it, this is a support group. Let's become the support group after the beauty that is To Your Eternity. Our boy is trudging onwards in our unrelenting storm. The narrator is back. He is guiding us once again. And there is also another instrument that is guiding this first half of the story. And that instrument is my favourite instrument. It is the cello. I adore the cello to pieces. Generally produces a very low, deep, rich sound that is very good for conveying sorrow. And in this sense, the cello gently just sings the solo. It's just a solo at some points with him just walking onwards, where we start to get introduced to the unrelenting cycle that this boy has now got to endure. And we've been told that he is now on death number 7. If he hits 9, I don't think he's a cat. But apparently it's essentially a learning curve. So it seems that he keeps the experience that he gains from, say, one playthrough, and then it gets thrown onto his next playthrough. I really am also getting game vibes from this. He has to hit requirements to level up, in a sense. He has to hit requirements to turn into the next animal or the next being. It's a very harsh cycle. And it seems that no one's guiding him, so we can hear the narrator. He doesn't seem to be able to. So he's ignoring these primal urges. So as an orb, he might be in the shape of a human, but he's ignoring primal urges to eat, to take care of themselves. And he's having to redo it over and over again. We see a beautiful sunset, which again symbols the end of another chapter, another respawn, as our character dies once more. So plenty of death this episode, but just not the person I thought it would be. But it's coming. It's a harsh cycle we learn via death. And then the orchestra starts to pick up. The moment the orchestra picks up, we get to see him for the first time, seeing the forests, seeing the south. This is the thing that the original boy wanted to make it to. Imagine what he would have felt if he had seen it. It is just too good. The music is absolutely fantastic in this anime, and it really helps take us on a journey of wonder. Perhaps it's picking up, emulating the wonder he gets when he sees a new sight, a new place. But then he dies again, so that wonder doesn't last long. It is a very brutal cycle. And it's also quite nice. It's an anime where we can see he's not getting it just in one go. He has to try again and again, just like life. No one's there to sometimes pick you up. You have to keep going. You have to keep picking yourselves up. It's a very nice metaphor. The OP is actually pretty happy for the anime that is about the harshness of life. We get a lot of fragments. So we see fragments of characters, places that we haven't quite met yet. March is there. The boy and the wolf is there as well. So presumably it's flashing all the experiences that our orb is going to learn. The fact they're flashing over and over as well. Maybe it is their attempt to try and be remembered, try and be memorized. We see the harshness of life, but everything keeps moving forward. So it might be harsh, but things keep moving. We see tears, we see scenes of unhappiness, but we also see scenes of happiness too, because life is a balance. A nice saying I like is, without sorrow, you can't experience happiness. So it takes being in a bad situation to appreciate a good one and experience how happy you are because of it. We see a nice cut of our narrator. He's a mysterious being for now that I really hope we get to learn more about, because I'm fascinated. Why did he send the orb to Earth? What is he gaining? Who is he? Where does he come from? And what is the Earth in relation to where he is? We see a lot of branching out paths from the bear, leading us towards perhaps a war. It is the idea that life is connected, life branches out. There are millions of people out there with different paths, but they all interconnect at points. Sometimes you cross somebody. I like it. I think the OP is going to grow on me. I think I prefer the ED more. I've got a lot more to say about the ED than the OP. There's a lot of elements here that I'm not familiar with. I haven't met these people yet, but the plot seems jam-packed. It also seems very extensive, and by the looks of it, it seems like the plot is going to lead us into more modern times, perhaps. This episode in particular helps perhaps date the anime, give us a date of where we might be, and I'll mention it a little bit later on. It is time to meet our adorable child, who we all will no doubt be crying about next episode. Hello, March. I wonder if you were born in March. Me too, I also was born in March. It is a bit of a 360 from last week. We actually get quite a nice, pleasant beginning. It's the daily life of March and her family, interacting with her soft toys, just the innocence of being young, being a child. The music at this point is peaceful. We had the introduction of wind instruments playing, and I think there was a possible rain stick at one point. I might have missed it, and definitely a xylophone plays. The xylophone, I always think when it's played, always feels really lively. It feels childish. It's used quite cleverly in things like Link's Awakening, Zelda, experiencing a new world, the new childlike wonder of seeing something. And it doesn't matter what universe we're in, parents trying to trick their kids into being quiet is a classic. We lose the music entirely during Perona's training session, seeing how poor she is on the bow. March's play session is quite a nice one as well. And we get to add some new world building elements. It's all just world building. Things are going to go horrifically wrong. It's time to meet our antagonists for this next arc, in a sense. I think her name is Hayase. We meet these unknown forces. They look a little bit different from the local gear that they're wearing. And Perona seemingly looks very distressed. You can see she was trying to take March away, trying to protect her from the being picked. And she was taking her away, not gathering like all the rest of the village was supposed to. And the fills, again, we've got to set up the fills. This is To Your Eternity. And of course, there's going to be a tear-jerking plot somewhere. Of course, foolish for me to believe that the quiet, nice moment would last forever, because quiet, nice moments don't generally last. We are introduced to the idea of a village ritual. It also helps us essentially date the anime too, because I think it's supposed to be similar to the Inca, who would perform child sacrifice to bring a good harvest the next year. I have a keen interest in archaeology. I think if you're following my Moriarty videos, I have a degree in history. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. A lot of the Incan mummies were left on, wait for it, mountainsides. That's why they're so good at, they're so well preserved, because the elements preserve those bodies. So it definitely helps us date, in a sense that we're definitely somewhere seemingly primitive, where they still believe in the idea of a sacrifice needing to bring about prosperity. So March will be sacrificed to bring this prosperity to all the people in the village. It's just seeing them as well, congratulating her. It's sickening. It's very sickening, because it all feels so, they want to cry, they know what's going to happen. They don't want to be congratulating her. And then when her parents just get behind closed doors and they just break down, it's that reality shock to the system. We know what's going to happen. It's horrible. It's a gut-wrenching moment, because the father's no longer permitted to touch his own daughter. He can't even comfort her. He's never going to touch her again, because he can't interact with her now. So he can't even comfort his own child, who is about to go and die. March is old enough to understand the idea that death is final. There will be no growing up. Her dream is to grow up and have her own family. It's just the frustration when she is pounding at Hayase's leg, going, why is somebody else in control of my fate? Why do you get to decide what happens to me? That's desperation. And then her father having to break that tension with him trying to tell her, just behave. And Hayase really not being high on my like list. I do understand that it is a culture where she believes in this. This is their religious beliefs. This is what they believe in. But I just don't like her. As well, she uses March's sister to threaten her. I was a little bit shocked that this all happens without meeting the boy because I figured they would meet. But they do meet later, so I guess this is just us getting the storytelling down, getting the backstory, because we, the audience as well, are experiencing everything we see. We get our tearful goodbye, and again, the cello is back, guys. The cello is designed for this kind of thing. It gives us the depth of a sound. It really does do well in sad moments when it comes to animes or music. We see a bird of freedom. As soon as I saw the bird, I was like, wait, birds are generally used as a sign of freedom and the feathers falling down to earth, which then triggers the next unexpected sequence. I was not expecting this. It is clearly Perona. Perona ends up trying to give a chance to March to help her escape and live on. But at the same time, it's painful because, if March did escape, Layla or the baby is now going to be also sacrificed in her place. It's really, really horrible. It's backing her into almost a corner. And talk about first impressions. I thought he'd been quiet. Well, it turns out he'd been dead. It's a great first meeting. Our boy is back from the dead. Again. How many times is this now? We need a death counter in the corner. It's perfect timing though, because him reanimating from the dead, looking like a zombie, scares off the guards. They believe they've seen a monster. But it seems he can't communicate. So my idea was March is definitely going to be the one to teach him at least how to communicate, how to look after himself, perhaps how to at least eat. But I love March. They've done very, very well because obviously this is going to be a very quick arc. It's only two episodes in this arc. They're doing really well to make me attached to a character. She's literally just seen a guy come back from the dead as a zombie in front of her, but she does not care. She is spewing out stories left, right and centre, really making you believe that this is a child here. That childlike excitement to just tell everybody everything, anything. The whole, I saw a dog today. And it's building, of course, that attachment to us, the audience. That's going to allow us to cry next episode. They know what they're doing. These guys are masters. It's a pretty much one-sided conversation, but our boy can't talk, so you can't really blame him. I presume that he can't talk and he didn't pick it up from the first person. He went through that playthrough as a wolf, and wolves don't have the capacity to talk. So he has to pick it up now in this new form which can talk, and he's going to have to learn it from March. The next sequence of him finally getting hungry, finally longing for food, it's great. It is such a good moment. Just the building of the relationship between these guys as we start to see some actual interaction between the two. He still eats like a wolf though. It's great, of course, he keeps the XP that he learnt from his other playthrough. So he obviously, as a wolf, he learnt to eat with no hands because wolves don't really eat with their hands. I love the fact as well when he just slaps the food from her hands. Just kind of like a cat in a sense as well. I lost it. I literally lost it when he just slapped it on the floor. I was like, no way. And this guy is just never going to make friends like that. He needs to start behaving. He essentially is her new dog. I love it. He is personally a dog right now. With absolutely no words from him, the anime is somehow just building up a fun relationship between the two. My heart goes out to March, who just simply wanted to eat for herself, and now she's got to care for her new pet. Something rather odd happens where the boy ends up, he feels his requirement of food, and his eye turns back really, really briefly. So he kind of levels up. He gains the original eye colour of the first boy, which was the purple, the pink. It looks like a level up, but then in the next scene he loses it again. So I'm not quite sure what it was. Maybe he hit a requirement, but it's not enough to get him on. The original narrator did say that he needs to hit requirements to essentially level up. But I did call it. March trying to teach our primitive how to talk, how to say thank you. Well, she's trying, but you've got to give it to her. Only a child would be this patient. March's nightmare is a little bit graphic for YouTube, so we're not showing it. But seeing her siblings dying in her place, being blamed, it is that fear that we know what's going to essentially happen. This is going to lead her to do the right thing, but again, the sad right thing, the tragic right thing, that she's going to probably hand herself in because she wants to protect her siblings. March, tracked down by our resident wolf, can't go very far. He's got the senses of a wolf still. And that end line, I'm not your mum. Well, March's wish in life is to grow up and have a family. I get the feeling that next episode we're going to see her be a mum to our boy. And then obviously she gets her wish, little wish before she dies, that she's able to live out a little bit of a fantasy as raising a child. I like the ED a lot more than the OP. It is a complete polar opposite. There is no vocals. It essentially is a very somber instrumental. There's a beautiful piece of string work in it, and then it kicks down to drums. But it's very, very stark. We start with the lonely chair that our boy ended up passing away in. We end up seeing a painting of the boy and the wolf. These are all pointers that were from that first arc. So it makes you think that everything we're about to see is a takeaway from the arcs we're about to go through, which is sad because, of course, the next sequence, the foreboding rabbit, that is indeed March's toy that she was playing with while she was alive. She's definitely going to die. And I really hope that the support group, I'll be here next week, guys. I will be that support group for you guys. We're going to be facing it together. We know it's coming. So at least at this point, we know it's coming. To be fair, I knew the boy was going to die in the first episode. Didn't make it any easier. We see some bellflowers. Bellflowers are often used when you want to remember somebody who was very dear to you. They are used to remember someone who you loved quite deeply. They are essentially as well called forget-me-nots, but I think bellflowers are a little bit bigger. The flowers start to fall downwards. We see flashes of red, danger, bloodshed, and then a fire, leading us to, I think it's the helmet of a character who was teased in the OP, and I think he's probably going to be one of the arcs that we follow as well. The orb is then released by our narrator, who actually was silent during the last half of the episode, which I think is very clever because we actually met characters who could now lead the plot. We met March, a lot of the villagers could talk, everybody now is talking, so we don't really need a narrator when we ourselves can pick up the information from the characters around us. We get to see what's going on. The characters are telling us their story. So it's a very clever use of the narrator. The narrator's there to read out what's happening next week, to tell us where we are in the beginning, and in case we get a moment where the boy's on his own and he can't speak, that's when he's used. We see an owl, a bear, and a wolf. These are all probably going to be very important characters. The wolf, of course, right now, very important. The owl also allowed March to escape. Perhaps that's why he's there. The bear, I think, is the god who's going to come down from the mountain and kill March. So that is their ritual. They will leave her sleeping on an altar, and the bear comes down and eats the child. Very, very brutal, but it's not a lot of these rituals. They are. Orb is then in its original form. We see him experiencing sunrises, sunsets. These are all beautiful, positive moments, the beauty of life. So up till now, we've seen a lot of sadness. We've seen a lot of foreboding moments that are coming our way. But seeing that sunrise, sunset, and then moving into a starry sky, these are all beautiful moments, the wonders of life. Because life may be harsh and there's a lot of negativity in life. And yes, child rituals, child sacrifice was a thing. But we get to see as well those beautiful moments that make life bearable in a sense. The end now, we see our last sequence kicking in. The drums start to kick off. We see a blood red moon. The end is actually very stylized. So up until this point, it's been almost realistic. We see a realistic chair, realistic flowers. Now turns characterized. Everything looks like it's been cartoonized. Our boy and his wolf eyes. We see the branches now reappearing, which is what connects the worlds we live in. We see the bear. March lies in a bed of flowers, which is definitely foreshadowing how she's going to die at the end. We see a montage of characters, which we are eventually going to be joining our story at some point. No doubt they will make us cry in the future. The boy and his wolf closes us out. This was, of course, our very beginning. And this all happens within the orb as we leave the orb. Because this is all the experiences that our boy hopefully is absorbing. Get it? Absorb. He's an orb and he's absorbing. I had to make that joke. The end scene, our narrator is back, but it doesn't look good for March. You can clearly see she's walking away with higher say, so she definitely chooses to do the right thing. A shadow appears, it's definitely going to be the bear. I really hope we don't actually physically see her being eaten by a bear. Come on, don't do this to us. Hopefully our boy's maternal bond with March will help nurture some experience and also hopefully get him to a point where he might be able to communicate a little bit better with. It's another really good episode, really enjoying it. And it's just, I need to praise the anime on things like its sound design, things like how well it's doing, even in an episode like this where music isn't doing too much this episode. It's this time we've got characters leading the story, but it's just little things. We have a character who can't talk and we've got a little child, but somehow their interaction really gets us invested and we really feel that we've got a bit of a nice bond growing between them. Just kudos to what level that these guys are on. And I've seen a few people say that they think To Your Eternity is going to be an instant classic. It's going to be one of those animes that we all go, hey, have you watched this yet? I love it and I really hope it gets the praise it deserves because it's fantastic. Really enjoying it. I will be here, your support group leader, next week, tuning in for seemingly a very, very sad episode, as perhaps we come to yet the end of another arc, and our boy will hopefully gain some more experience through death, essentially, through that cycle of life and death. So thank you guys again. Thanks for being supportive. I will see you guys again very shortly. Bye bye, guys.